Welcome to a deep dive into something I think we all obsess over as dog owners. What on earth should we be putting in those dog bowls?
You're speaking my language.
You've sent over a stack of articles on dog nutrition, and clearly you're as passionate about your furry friend's health as I am about, well, a good podcast.
Always good to connect with a fellow dog enthusiast and one who's so proactive.
So let's unpack this. We're not just talking the basics here. We're going beyond, just the basic kibble talk. We're talking busting myths.
Love it.
Uncovering some hidden gems in those dog food aisles.
Yes.
And really giving you the confidence to make the absolute best choices for your pup.
Music to my ears. So are you ready to dive in?
I am ready. And speaking of diving in, one article surprised me by suggesting we could actually add some fruits and veggies to our dog's diet. Apples, bananas, even watermelon. Is this a fun snack? Or are there real benefits?
It's not just about spicing up their bowl. While we don't want to turn Fido completely vegetarian, these fruits pack some serious nutritional punches. Take apples, for instance. They're full of vitamin A, which the article mentions is a huge boost to their immune system and can even make their coat extra shiny.
Okay, so maybe a few apple slices instead of the whole pie.
Exactly. Moderation is key.
But what about the core stuff, right? The proteins, fats, omega-3s. One article made it feel like I was back in biology class.
It can feel like a whole new world. But trust me, understanding what these nutrients actually do for your dog, it makes those labels way less intimidating.
Right.
We're talking strong bones, healthy digestion, a sharper mind. For example, one article really highlighted that dogs can't produce enough essential fatty acids on their own.
That's where those omega-3s come in, right? Now, what's fascinating is that one article claims dogs can thrive on a completely vegetarian diet. I have to admit, I always thought they needed meat.
It's a common misconception, and to be honest, it's a bit more nuanced than that. While dogs are naturally omnivores, meaning they can digest plant matter, a well-planned vegetarian diet for a dog needs a bit more attention. That same article goes on to explain that we need to make sure they're getting enough protein, and crucially, those essential amino acids their bodies can't produce.
So it's possible, but maybe not as simple as just swapping out the kibble for some veggie patties.
Exactly. It requires careful planning.
Speaking of protein, there's been a buzz about organ meat lately. One article called it a superfood for dogs. What's the deal with that?
Organ meats are like nature's multivitamin for dogs. They're packed with nutrients that are harder to find in muscle meat. The article specifically mentioned liver, a strength builder, a fantastic natural source of iron, something that a lot of commercial dog foods, they just skimp on.
Interesting. And you mentioned commercial dog food. There's been a lot of talk about raw food diets, too.
Right.
Several articles in this stack touch on them, highlighting benefits like healthier skin, better teeth. What is your take on this whole trend?
It's definitely a hot topic. And like any dietary change, it comes with, pros and cons. Raw diets can be great, but safety is paramount. One article I found, I thought it was particularly insightful, really highlighted the importance of meticulous hygiene with raw feeding.
Okay.
We're talking sourcing from reputable suppliers, handling the food with care, making sure it's stored properly to avoid any of those nasty bacteria.
That's a relief. Food safety, that's top of mind for me.
Absolutely, it should be.
It's good to hear. So whether we're Team Kibble, exploring fresh food, or, going all in on raw, the key takeaway here is informed choice, right?
100%. And this is where those dog food labels, the ones that often feel like a jumble of scientific jargon.
Oh, tell me about it.
They become our best friend. Remember that acronym, AAFCO, that you might see on the back?
I think I've seen that.
Think of them as the referees in the dog food world. They're making sure that what you see on that label actually meets the kind of minimum nutritional requirements for your pup.
That makes a lot of sense. So when we see complete and balanced, that means it's got all the essentials covered.
Exactly. It's like a nutritional safety net, you could say.
But then there's all the other stuff, right? Natural, human grade, organic. It's like a whole other language.
Right. And some of these terms are regulated and some not so much. One article did a great job breaking this down. Organic, for example, it actually has a very strict definition from the USDA. It means specific sourcing and production methods have been followed.
So that one you can trust.
Exactly. Natural and human grade, though, those are a bit more slippery. One article, I think it was from PetMD, actually cautioned about getting swayed by tiny amounts of quote-unquote superfoods way down on the ingredient list. A sprinkle of blueberries doesn't a superfood diet make.
So it's about looking at the big picture, the core ingredients and their proportions.
Exactly. The ingredient list is like a recipe. They're listed in order of weight, so if chicken or fish or, whatever your protein source is, if that's not at the top.
Red flag. It's like hiding the veggies at the bottom of the menu. Speaking of which, one article really emphasized the importance of protein variety.
It makes sense, right? Just like us, dogs benefit from a diverse diet. Think of it this way. Different protein sources, they offer different amino acid profiles, those building blocks of protein that your dog needs to thrive.
It's all about balance. One thing that always seemed counterintuitive to me was this idea that dogs need tons of carbohydrates for energy. Is that another myth we can debunk?
I'm happy to bust that myth. One article, I think it was from Dogs Naturally magazine, they challenged that assumption head on. They argued that while carbohydrates can provide energy, they're not actually essential for dogs.
Really?
Dogs can get their energy from protein and fat, too.
Okay, that's making me rethink all those kibble brands that are just loaded with grains. So where do carbs fit in then?
The article suggested that too many carbs might actually be linked to some health issues in dogs, things like obesity, yeast infections, even allergies.
It really makes you think twice about what you're putting in that bowl.
You got it. Yeah. It all comes back to, really critically evaluating those ingredients and considering your dog's individual needs. Like, one size does not fit all in the dog food aisle.
So true. Now let's talk about the fun stuff. Treats. One article, I think it was from Cesar Millan, emphasized that treats are more for the mind than the body.
He's got a point. While food fuels their physical health, treats can be amazing tools for training, for mental stimulation. It's about, keeping those tails wagging and those minds engaged.
He actually recommended marrow bones as his top pick, called them the most primal treat. What's so special about marrow bones?
They're like a mental workout and a tasty snack, all in one. Gnawing on a marrow bone satisfies their natural chewing instincts, it provides mental enrichment, and it even offers a little bonus of calcium and other nutrients.
Sounds like a win-win. Any downsides?
Milan did mention that, especially in a multi-dog household, supervision is key. You don't want those delicious bones triggering any,
Oh, possessiveness.
Exactly.
Safety first. He also mentioned bully sticks as a popular choice.
Another great option for a long-lasting chew, especially for those pups who can't quite handle bones, though he did warn that they can be a bit pungent.
I can imagine.
So maybe best enjoyed outdoors.
Noted. Okay, so we've got the basics, the treats. But what about going beyond the bowl? One article really caught my eye, talking about bone broth as this almost magical healing potion for dogs.
Bone broth, it's definitely having a moment, and honestly, for good reason. It's a powerhouse of collagen, gelatin, amino acids.
Wow.
All incredible for a dog's health.
The article claimed it could help with digestion, inflammation, even joint health. Is that legit?
There's definitely truth to it. That collagen in bone broth, it's key. It helps maintain healthy cartilage and connective tissues, which is especially beneficial for, our senior pups or those with any joint issues.
Sounds like a fountain of youth for their joints. Another surprise. Goat milk.
Right. Goat milk is actually easier for dogs to digest than cow's milk, and it's packed with goodness. Calcium, probiotics, essential fatty acids, you name it, it's probably got it.
It's like a superfood smoothie for dogs.
I love that.
Speaking of superfoods, several articles highlighted omega-3 fatty acids. Why are those so important for our furry friends?
Think of omega-3s as like the superheroes of the dog world. They boost the immune system, fight inflammation, even support brain health.
Wow. The article suggested incorporating small oily fish, like sardines, anchovies, for a natural omega-3 boost.
Those are fantastic choices, packed with omega-3s and, unlike larger fish, they're lower in mercury, which is always a concern.
Good point. One article mentioned an oil I wasn't familiar with, MCT oil.
MCT stands for medium-chain triglycerides. Think of it as a healthy fat that's really easily digested, and it gives your dog a quick energy boost.
And the article even claimed that it could improve cognitive function, support the immune system, potentially even fight cancer.
Now, while more research is always needed, especially on that last point, MCT oil has shown real promise in supporting brain health in dogs. It's often used as a supplement for dogs with epilepsy or cognitive decline.
It's incredible how powerful these natural ingredients can be. One more that really piqued my interest. Kelp. Seaweed for dogs? Who knew?
Kelp is like a nutritional powerhouse. It's loaded with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, you name it, Keb's got it.
The article mentioned that it's a particularly good source of iodine.
Which is essential for a healthy thyroid. Kelp can be a great natural supplement, especially for dogs with hypothyroidism.
This deep dive is full of surprises. There's so much to learn. One more. Mushrooms. The article called them a superfood for dogs.
Now, we're not talking about those, wild mushrooms popping up in your backyard.
Definitely not.
But specific types like reishi, shiitake, and maitake mushrooms, those have shown some really impressive benefits for dogs.
Like what?
We're talking immune system boost, liver support. Some studies even suggest they have some anti-cancer properties.
It's like we're uncovering this secret world of doggy superfoods. And on that note, the last one that really surprised me, fermented foods.
Think like sauerkraut or kimchi, but for your pup.
I never would have thought. What makes them so beneficial for dogs?
Fermented foods are teeming with probiotics. Those are the beneficial bacteria that live in the gut and play a vital role in digestion and, really, their overall health.
It's like tending to their inner garden.
I love that analogy. A balanced gut microbiome. It's crucial for good digestion, nutrient absorption, a strong immune system.
So important. Okay, we've covered a lot of good stuff, the do's of dog nutrition. But what about the don'ts? What are some common feeding mistakes that we should, try to avoid?
Sometimes love can be a little too generous.
Oh, I know it.
Overfeeding is a big one.
Those puppy dog eyes get me every time.
Right. But even just a few extra kibbles a day, it adds up. One article from the RSPCA, they really stress the importance of maintaining a healthy weight for our furry friends.
Yeah, I imagine it's similar to humans. Obesity can lead to a whole host of health problems.
Exactly. We're talking joint issues, heart disease, diabetes. They can all be linked to obesity in dogs. The article had some great advice, I thought. They said, have a chat with your vet. Figure out the right amount of food for your dog's age, breed, activity level.
Well, that makes sense. Every dog is different, just like us. What about those sneaky table scraps?
Ah, the age-old dilemma. While it's tempting, I get it, those pleading eyes. Table scraps, though, they can really disrupt their balanced diet and, in some cases, even be harmful.
The American Kennel Club, they reminded us that treats and table scraps combined shouldn't exceed 10% of their daily caloric intake.
That's a great rule of thumb to keep in mind. And, of course, we all know some human foods are a big no-no for dogs.
Chocolate, onions, garlic, grapes. The list goes on, right?
Exactly. If in doubt, always best to err on the side of caution and check with your vet.
Absolutely. This deep dive is already making me rethink my dog's diet.
It's never too late to make those positive changes. A balanced, nutritious diet is really the foundation of a long, healthy life for your furry friend.
So true. Speaking of healthy choices, one article emphasized the importance of selecting high-quality dog food that meets those AAFCO standards that we talked about. What should we be looking for on those labels?
Prioritize clarity. Avoid those really vague terms, things like meat byproducts or poultry meal. We want to see real recognizable ingredients like chicken meal or beef liver, things we actually recognize.
Transparency is key. Now, what about grain-free diets? Those seem to be everywhere these days.
Grain-free can be a good choice for some dogs, especially those with allergies or sensitivities to grains. However, it's not a magical solution for every dog.
One article even suggested a possible link between some grain-free diets and heart problems in dogs.
It's a complex issue that researchers are still looking into. I think the bottom line is always chat with your vet before making any significant dietary changes, especially if your dog has any, underlying health conditions.
This really highlights the importance of informed decision-making when it comes to our dogs' diets, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We're lucky to have so much information available to us now. By doing our research, consulting with our vets, paying attention to our dog's individual needs, that's how we empower ourselves to make the best choices for them.
It's a big responsibility, but a rewarding one. Speaking of responsibility, food safety, that's paramount. Especially with raw feeding, right?
Absolutely. One article, I think it was from the AKC, they really emphasized the importance of meticulous handling and storage of raw meat. We're talking preventing bacterial contamination, not just for our dog's sake, but for our own health as well.
Right. It mentioned risks like salmonella and other foodborne illnesses.
Exactly. Raw feeding does demand a higher level of vigilance than, say, kibble or canned food.
So what are some key things to keep in mind if we are considering raw?
The article recommended some excellent practices, like always wash your hands thoroughly after handling raw meat, disinfect any surfaces that come into contact with it, and making sure to store it separately from other foods in your fridge.
So it's all about, like, really minimizing those risks.
Precisely. And of course, sourcing your raw meat from, reputable suppliers who adhere to strict safety standards, that's non-negotiable.
This deep dive is making it clear that raw feeding isn't for the casual dog owner.
It definitely requires commitment and a thorough understanding of the potential risks involved.
Yes.
But for some, the benefits outweigh those risks.
Okay, so let's say we are making some changes to our dog's diet, maybe transitioning them to something new. What's the best way to approach that?
Slow and steady wins the race, always. One article suggested introducing any new foods gradually to avoid any digestive upset. You can start by mixing a small amount of the new food with their old food, and then slowly increase the ratio over several days or even weeks.
So easing them into it, basically.
Exactly. Now, some dogs can be a bit more resistant to change, especially, those older pups set in their ways.
Oh, I know it. It's like trying to convince a toddler to try a new vegetable.
Exactly. Patience and persistence are key. You might have to get a little creative, maybe enticing them with some warm water or bone broth mixed in to make it more appealing.
Or even, like, sneaking in some of their favorite healthy treats.
There you go. And it's important to monitor them closely for any signs of, digestive issues or allergies during the transition.
So keep an eye on their stools, their energy levels, any changes in their skin or coat.
Exactly. And of course, if you notice anything concerning at all, reach out to your vet right away.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. I'm feeling so much more confident about advocating for my dog's health.
Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to those we love.
One article mentioned something that really resonated with me. They said that feeding our dogs a balanced diet, it doesn't just benefit their physical health, but their mental well-being too.
It's amazing, isn't it? Just like us, dogs can experience mood changes and even behavioral issues if their nutritional needs aren't being met.
It really drives home the point that what we feed our dogs, it goes so far beyond simply filling their bowls.
Absolutely. It's about nourishing their minds, bodies, and spirits.
It really is. And speaking of journeys, this deep dive has been quite a ride for me. I feel like I've gone from, like, dog food novice to, having a whole arsenal of knowledge.
And you know what the best part is? You can take all this and share it with other dog lovers.
Absolutely. Sharing is caring, right? Especially when it comes to our furry companions. Any final, nuggets of wisdom you want to leave our listeners with?
One final thought to chew on, literally. One of those articles, I think it was from the National Academies of Science, they had a really interesting point. They said that how we feed our dogs early on can actually shape their taste preferences later in life.
So introducing them to a variety of healthy foods when they're puppies, that kind of sets them up for, a lifetime of good eating habits.
Exactly. It's like we're establishing this healthy palate from a young age, so those good choices, they just become second nature as they grow.
I love that. Well, this has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I've officially graduated from, Dog Nutrition 101.
And now you've got the knowledge to go out there and make, really informed, empowered decisions for your furry friend. Remember, their health and happiness, it's really in your hands.
It's a responsibility I don't take lightly. Thank you so much for, guiding us through this deep dive. It's been such a pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine. And remember, feeding your dog, this should be a joyful experience for both of you. Choose wisely, feed with love, and enjoy the journey.
Beautifully said. And to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of dog nutrition. We hope you've gained some really valuable insights today, and we hope you feel, empowered to make the absolute best choices for your furry companions. Until next time, happy feeding.